Welcome, everyone. We'll let you get settled. And we will start here in a couple of minutes. So we are glad you guys are all here. Spending some time with us to learn a little bit more about time management. So while we're kind of waiting on people to come in, just note that we are in webinar mode. So you will not be able to use the chat or raise your hand. Please use the Q&A for any questions that you might have. So again, we'll give it just another minute or so, let a few more get in here and we will get started. So we're glad you're here. Welcome. We'll start here in just a moment. Again, we are in Q&A mode and webinar, or we are in webinar mode. So you will not be able to see us. We won't be able to see you. Please use the Q&A for any questions, and we will have some time at the end. So it looks like we've kind of stabilized here on attendees. So let me get our introduction here. So hello, everyone. We are glad to have you join us today. My name is Tammy Fuentes, and I serve Phi Theta Kappa as the Senior Director for Membership Development. For a couple of housekeeping items, again, we are in webinar mode, so we will not be able to see you. Please use the Q&A feature to ask any questions regarding the presentation. We will do our best to provide some time at the end for questions. We are glad to have all of our eligible students attending this session to see that Phi Theta Kappa offers you more than just a notation on your transcript. We have programming to assist you as a student throughout your education. This session is being recorded for those who accept membership in Phi Theta Kappa. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our presenter today. Dr. Mary Funk is an associate teaching professor at the University of Southern Mississippi, specializing in human capital development, applied technology, and organizational leadership for students, both in the bachelor's program as well as those attending graduate school. Dr. Funk is also a certified project manager professional with the Project Management Institute and provides classes in project management, human resource development, and business communications. In addition to her work in higher education, Dr. Funk is a retired Navy air traffic controller and still works closely with military students who are transitioning from active duty to student life. She has presented time management in several formats to various levels and groups. Please welcome Dr. Mary Funk.
Hi, everybody. So thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. Let me just start by talking about a few things on this screen right here, a couple of sayings that you may or may not have heard of. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late by William Shakespeare. So even back then, that was a thing, procrastination. Never leave till tomorrow that which you can do today. Benjamin Franklin said that. So keep those words in mind. And some of my favorites, this paper won't write itself. I love saying that. This paper won't grade itself. All the ways that it can be applied to what we're doing, I use it. And then one that I also think of when I'm starting a bigger project is paint on walls. And that means when you're going to paint something or you're going to fix something or you're going to do something, just get started. Just get some paint on the walls. Quit fooling around with color and tools and things. Just get some paint on the walls. And the same applies to words on paper. So, and now we don't use paper so much, but words on screen. So when you want to get started and the words on, you can't get any words out, just put something on there. It's not going to be perfect, but take that one step, that one leap to put some words on there and get your statements out there, and then you can change them. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is getting it done, time management, productivity. Stop procrastinating. So before we do go, I do want to give a quick plug to Oh, there it is. A quick plug to my university, University of Southern Mississippi. We are on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, right on the beach. I have a beautiful view, although it is dark and raining right now. But I want to talk about our undergraduate program for just a second. We have accounting, applied technology, which is 100% online, business administration, industrial engineering technology with logistics. Those are both online. We have management and marketing, and our feature is organizational leadership, a BSBA, and that is going to start in the fall. We've been working really hard on getting that going, and it's going to be a fantastic program. So if you are interested in that, I put the QR code down below and not for the School of Leadership, but for the leadership program itself. So, and if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me. Okay, so now we're going to start. First of all, I am really glad you're here. I'm glad you are using some of your precious time to be here. We are going to talk about time, what it means, procrastination, motivation, distractions and multitasking, and techniques for helping with that. So time. So for time, we have to wonder about what it actually is. How does it happen? So we have just loosely defined, if I wanted to work on something, if I have a deadline or a due date, I need to know that. So what does that mean? So if I am working on the Sistine Chapel in Rome at the Vatican, and I am laying on my back painting that ceiling as one does, and the Pope came by and said, "Hey, when is that going to be done?" Of course, I would just be so angry and say, "No, there is no time constraint on this masterpiece." But that's not really how it works. A physicist that you may have heard of, Albert Einstein, has said that time may be relative to your existence. And so in that case, that time is relative because the master working on the Sistine Chapel had all the time that he needed. It was a masterpiece project. But other than that, maybe a baby has a relative time because time doesn't really matter to a baby. What's going to matter to a baby is if it's hungry, right? Time is not going to matter. And maybe when you're older, time does not matter as much. But for us, those of us in the workforce or students, time plays a very big role. And so we have, a philosopher, and also a physicist, also many other disciplines, named Aristotle, who you've heard of also, that says time is just the change from before to now. So that's all it is. Time is just the change. So for something from before to now, we might call that 5 minutes. So that's what Aristotle was telling. That's all that time is. But in the real world, in our today modern world, it's finite. It is, we are expected to produce quite a bit in our time. And so we need to know about how much is available. How much time do we have? So with deadlines and due dates, we have to worry about how much time we have. So let's do this little breakdown exercise here. So 1 week is 168 hours. So I might assign you something as your professor and say, you have 1 week to complete this. So you're like, yes, I have 168 hours to complete this. That's amazing. I can do that. No problem. And as time ticks by, things come up. First of all, sleep. Sleep is the biggest purple slice there is there. Eating. I didn't even give you enough time to eat. Honestly, I said that it would only take you 7 hours of your week to eat. That's not true. It's going to take you a lot more than that. Showering, 7 hours. Class, about 20 hours. That's that yellow color. And then work is going to take you maybe, if you're a student worker or work study, maybe 15 hours a week. You're going to commute an hour, maybe 5 times a week, probably more though. And then that just leaves the extras. After all that, you may have other assignments due. You may have to do other chores. You might have a lot going on. You may have to take things to the laundromat and sit there while they don't have Wi-Fi. You might have all kinds of other things to do. So that 160 hours, if you don't get started right away, doesn't work. It just doesn't work depending on how long it is. So we want to make sure that you realize how much time you have in your for your deadline. So this is going to bring me over to procrastination. We'll get back to a little bit of time, but procrastination. If you're putting off work because you have something more important to do that is an equal priority or even a higher priority, that's not actually procrastinating. That's actually being busy. Okay. So if you have that and you have already determined that something is a higher priority, you're not procrastinating. You are working your plan. Okay. Now, when does procrastination come in? Procrastinating is putting off what you don't want to do. The question is why you don't want to do it. So if you're procrastinating because something is too hard, you really probably don't know what it is you're supposed to do, how it's supposed to look. You don't have any examples and you have no idea how it's supposed to be. So it's really hard to maybe a very complex project. That's procrastinate. So people do tend to procrastinate there. Is it ambiguous? Are the instructions so unclear that you know it's going to take a lot of effort to make a leap into what is needed here? So that might be a reason to procrastinate. Maybe you're afraid you're going to mess up. Not USA Today, but Psychology Today magazine said that 20% of our population is a chronic or a habitual procrastinator. 20%. I would say that's probably more. Most of us procrastinate at different times and for different reasons. But if they say 20%, but not all of it is because someone doesn't want to do the project. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, but it's actually because they want to get it right. They want to get the assignment exactly right. And to do that, it would take a lot of time and they don't feel they have that time. Maybe you are one of those people that want to make an A no matter what, and anything that you get wrong is, offensive to you. So we want to make sure that you are jumping ahead of that if that is some issue that you're dealing with. There is a writer and a blogger named Tim Urban, and he did a TED Talk, and that's a picture of him there on the screen. And the TED Talk is called Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. It's a little cut off, but Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. And this gentleman is fairly accomplished, has books and has other extensive blogs to read, but considers himself a master procrastinator. And I have this link here, but I can't go to it right now because it won't bring me back to the Zoom outlet that I need to be in. But so he says that the guardian angel of the procrastinator is panic. And that panic monster comes out when you fear that you are out of time and that you're going to be either embarrassed, you're going to lose out on something, your career is going to be in danger, there's some sort of public humiliation that's going to happen. So the guardian angel of procrastinators panic, but that panic gets you out of the procrastination mode. So it's actually not a terrible thing to have panic in there, but it'd be better if you didn't have to wait at all and wouldn't have to use that panic because that panic is stressful. So if you are somebody who is a master procrastinator as well, then you want to make sure that you get to the point where you have trained yourself to shake that off. And that's where we're going to go with this. So there's a lot of pressure when someone is a procrastinator. And if it's you, you know what happens. And Tim Urban talks about a time when he had to write a 90-page senior thesis and had to stay up for 2 solid days to do it. And he talks about a time when he turned it in just barely under the wire, and he dreamt or he visualized that it was the best paper they'd ever seen. And that actually did not happen. It was pretty close to the worst paper they'd ever seen. But I would submit that the enemy of procrastination is actually motivation. So that's where we're going next, to motivation. So motivation is a basic element of human behavior. It is widely studied. People study motivation all the time. There are so many theories of motivation that I have to pare them down when I'm teaching this section of my human capital development courses. Because there's so many, and you can find motivation studies everywhere you go. And there's so many variations of it, and I'll tell you why. So if you got out of bed this morning, most likely you were coming from a place of Maslow's basic need theory. So remember Maslow had the triangle with the different levels, and most of us have studied that through the years, and it has need-based um, levels there: safety, love, belonging, esteem, self-actualization, and there's other versions of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But in this case, Maslow is probably the reason you got out. You either needed to make some money, or you needed to take your dog out to the bathroom. You needed to do something, and it was on that chart. But there are other ones. There are many other ones, as I've said, but cognitive and goal setting, Vroom did that. And there are lots of studies of motivation because there are so many types of motivation. So if I'm at work and my boss says to me, hey, I'm going to give you some more money if you work harder and faster, I might look at my boss and say, no, I have plenty of money. I'll never say that. Those words will never come out of my mouth. But it will be maybe not a motivator to me, but it won't be a demotivator, but it won't be a big motivator. But if my boss came to me and said, hey, how about if you get this all of this done, you can have all of next week off. Now we're talking. Now I'm a little more motivated. Now I feel a little more fire under me to get it done. So you have to find that thing that motivates you. Is it that you want a better job? So is it what is success to you? That's your motivator. Success for a student is means many different things, but that is your motivator. So let's think about visualization, visualizing your success. And that may be when you complete a paper, you could visualize yourself as you're working on it. You could visualize yourself clicking that submit button or handing that paper in on time. That beautiful paper that you wrote that you're very proud of, handing that thing in. That could be visualizing. You could visualize completing that course that you were working on. You could visualize yourself actually looking at the grades at the end of the term. That could be a visualization. You could visualize yourself completing the degree, visualizing yourself at commencement. We're going to talk about that a little more. You could visualize yourself as a professional at work. Maybe you're wearing a lab coat. Maybe you're wearing a three-piece suit as an attorney. Maybe you're in a courthouse. Maybe you're a judge. Maybe you're doing, nursing, whatever it is. Visualize that. Visualize your success or your profession and visualize your success, whatever that success is. It maybe you bought a mansion, maybe you have a little beach shack, maybe you live in France, whatever your success is, visualize that. So let's do a little exercise here. And we're going to close our eyes. No one can see you. Please do this while you're listening to me. We're going to close our eyes and we're going to visualize graduation, whether that is from the community college, maybe that is from a university, maybe that's from a grad school, wherever that is, we're going to visualize commencement. So to do that, we need to use all five senses. And we've done this in class a few times when we need a little push, right? So you need to use all five senses. So close your eyes and let's visualize how it looks. You're probably in an arena. Some people graduate in a large church or other facility, but look around, look at the one that's in your area at your school. Where do people graduate? How does it look? Is it cavernous? Is it cold? What is it? Are there people just filing in? Are there seats everywhere? Is that something that you can visualize your outfit? How do you look? Do you have the greatest shoes on? Have you had your nails done? Is your hair done? Do you have a great tie that you've been saving for this occasion? Do you have your cap and gown on, or did you put your cap on later? Visualize that. Then you want to hear. What's your hearing visualization? Does it sound very loud? Are people laughing? Do you hear air horns? Do you hear your name being screamed out when you walk across the stage? Do you hear your name being called by the announcer as you walk across the stage? Then how about taste? This one's a little harder to taste because maybe you have mint in your mouth. Maybe you want to visualize the big breakfast you had before you went to the arena with your family. Maybe you want to visualize the big family dinner you're going to have later. Maybe you're just going out yourself. I don't know, but taste, put that in there somehow. And touch. So now we go to the last part, which is touch. So visualize yourself touching your embossed program that has your name in it that says you graduated. Maybe you're shaking hands with the president of the university or college. Visualize that touch. How does it feel? What's it feel like there? What are the things you're feeling? Visualize that whole situation. And then you can open your eyes, but you want to practice that. And some people do that before they get out of bed in the morning. They do a visualization of them finishing, and that helps them. So we do visualization in that way to keep you on track, to keep you motivated, because motivation is so important to helping you get things done. And that's really what it's all about. Just a word about visualization though. We don't typically visualize in the negative way. So we don't typically want to visualize not turning in that paper or not passing that course or visualizing not being at graduation when everyone you know is. We want to only stay on the positive because there's enough negative going on. So let's just keep it on the motivating. I mean, if it works for you, fine, but I can't tell you what to visualize, but motivating yourself to do something is usually on the positive side, right? So if you are a visualizer, you know what I'm talking about. So we want to get good at that and visualize things being on the good. You can visualize anything, honestly. I use it. I recommend it for people. Okay, so we use our senses. Now we're going to talk about distractions. Distractions and multitasking. Originally, I had these two as different slides, distractions and multitasking. But as I started to study it and look at it, I see that multitasking is a form of distraction. So we're going to talk about it right now. Distractions. A distraction is something that prevents you from giving your full attention. Okay. So what could that be? What do you have? What do you have that distracts you, that is on the end of your fingertips most of your day and sometimes even in your night? What do you have that might be distracting? I can't think of it. Oh, I know. Is it your phone? No. I'm going to bring this to your attention. It is not your phone. It's your fingertips who are using your phone because your phone is inanimate. It can't distract you unless you let it. And it can't distract you unless you physically touch it. So if you turn off your phone and you're holding your phone but it's powered off, here's your phone. I don't have my phone out. It's in a drawer. Here's your phone. And you are ready to do some work, but your phone's off. Well, right now, it's not a distraction. It's a temptation. It's not a distraction. So let's get rid of that temptation. Open your drawer, put in your backpack, stick your phone in there. Believe me, no one is going to call you. I mean, they might, but they're not going to be helping you get this paper done. So whoever's going to call you can call you in a few minutes. Am I right? Now, I didn't mention this, but many of us have a smartphone on our watch. I mean, a smartwatch, and that phone is connected. So you can also turn off your Bluetooth on your phone. I mean, on your watch. So think about that too. So that is a distraction. If you use it, if you don't use it, as I said, it is, a temptation. So now I want to talk about, distractions. There are so many, honestly, it's hard to just name one, but if you take away your phone, your watch, your tablet, and put a note on your door that you're working, anything else that's happening, if you take all of that away, you only are left with the internet. And when you're left with the internet, that's on you because you might have to use it to complete your assignments. However, that is a lot less distraction. So I want to talk. Let me just one last thing about multimedia, social media. Social media is designed to capture your attention. It's designed to do that. We've all seen the documentaries. And they do a great job of it. So be smarter than social media and work on turning that off. I know it's hard. I totally understand. Okay, so now that takes me to multitasking. So many people tell me, many students, that they're good at multitasking. I mean, my kids tell me that. Everybody tells me they're good at multitasking. But there is a communications professor at Stanford University, and he is also the author of The Man Who Lied to His Laptop. His name is Dr. Clifford Nass, Nass. And he did an interview on NPR, which I just recently listened to, and it stated that there's a very strong piece of evidence that says multitasking with devices shows clear deficits in comprehension and performance. So we're talking about devices now, not multitasking as in folding clothes and listening to a podcast. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about taking a walk and listening to music. We're not talking about that. We're talking about multitasking where it's using the same cognitive areas of your brain. So you're writing a paper, but you also are looking at a movie or Netflix, something like that. That's not allowing you to fully commit to your paper. So this study also says that multitasking with a device is like a person who has not slept the entire night before. So a person who has not slept the entire night before has slower reactions, slower processing speeds, and is basically, when you're multitasking, what you're doing is shifting from one task to the other, constantly shifting, very quickly shifting back and forth, back and forth. So it takes you longer to finish the task. So if it's taking you longer to finish the task, you're really not saving anything with this multitasking. So, I mean, I understand people saying I'm multitasking, meaning that they are doing two things at once, one of them being some mindless job and one of them being a cognitive thing. So that's basically what multitask. So it would be very difficult for you to be doing your math homework and watching a video at the same time. So you end up just switching back and forth, and it takes you so much longer. So we don't want that, right? We don't want that. We want to just finish. You're better off just finishing the task or the paper and then doing the other thing that you wanted to do instead of doing both. So let's talk about some techniques for getting things done and managing your time. All right. So a technique, I'm going to talk about two of them, actually. I'm going to talk about time management techniques for students, which is not a catchy title, but it's done by Purdue International University. And Purdue is very good for creating content for us that they do great studies and share it with people. So I'm going to talk about that one with you. And then I'm going to talk about another one called Pomodoro. So I'm going to talk about those two techniques. Now, I should mention that for neurodivergent community, there are some challenges with both of these techniques. If you're neurodivergent, you may struggle with things that are forcing you to cut your time in half or have a due date with your time, a due time. So you want to make sure that you don't make it a stress trigger. And there are some tools for that. I'm not going to go over all of them, but there are some specific tools. And it may be that you need someone to help you organize what your tasks are before you start these techniques, these time management techniques. There's many apps for that too. But sometimes it's just as simple as having someone say, okay, what are your due dates? What do you have due? This is the first thing you do. This is the second, and prioritize it for you. Now, I did put a disclaimer on here about the techniques and said that these techniques are not effective if the user is in a state of sleep deficit. So I put on that 168 hours that you needed 7 hours. Many of us do not get 7 hours. I am a terrible sleeper. I don't sleep great. It's not good. But I do much, much better when I sleep. So let's jump in here. Time management techniques for students. This is Produce. And I'm going to go over them and talk about it. The first one is some of these are common sense and you should be doing them anyway, and probably you are. But if you are not, let me remind you. Identify the time wasters and set goals. So what are your time wasters? Okay, so time wasters are videos, TikToks, whatever they are. That's a time waster. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's a time waster. Sometimes you can start looking and scrolling and you look up and it's an hour later. That's a time waster. Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it is not. But when you have something you must do, like schoolwork, it is not appropriate. Okay, so you have to set goals. What's your big goal? Let's think about what your big goal might be. Maybe your big goal is graduating. Maybe your big goal is graduating early. Maybe your big goal is graduating early and going to grad school. I don't know what your goal is, but whatever it is, make sure you do know it. So what projects are you working on to get there? So to complete a degree, what do you have to work on? You have a whole lot of courses to take, and you have a whole lot of assignments to do in each course. So those are sub goals. You want to make sure you do those. Okay. A gym goal maybe is something you want to do. I don't know what your goals are, but you do know. And I know you're smart enough to pick those up and keep those in the front of your mind. Number 2 is create a to-do list for the day. What thing are you going to do that's going to get you closer to your goal? Those are the types of things your to-do list should have. So if your to-do list says play video games, and video games is not on your goal list, maybe that one needs to come off for this day. It's appropriate for other days, but it's not for this day. So if that's the case, then make a to-do list that you are refreshing in your mind all the time while you're still in bed. So you do a visualization on what your ultimate goal is. Now go in and say, okay, so what do I have to do today? What do I have to do today? And that's your sub goal. Tackle the small task first. If you have a small paper to do, or maybe it's just a paragraph that you needed to put in the discussion board, that may be very easy for you and you could accomplish that. And it has few dependencies, so you don't have to do other things to get that finished. Knock it out right away. It feels good to knock that out, right? Establish a routine. I'm on number 5. Establish a routine. Do it when the area is quietest. Early morning might be your routine. Honestly, when I was working on my doctorate, I needed a lot of quiet time. But there were 5 people living in my house. When is the quiet time? Turned out the quiet time was at 3 a.m. I would just trudge out of bed. It was miserable, but I would trudge out of bed, and by 5 minutes, I make coffee, I'm sitting down. By 5 minutes, I've got my brain in gear and I'm working, and I'm taking advantage of all the quiet time that I possibly can. And if that's you, if you have a lot of distractions at your home, early morning might be the time to do it. So that routine, it became a routine. I mean, I had to go to bed early, but that became a routine for me. So people knew, even if you do wake up, don't come out. I'm working, and I will not stop working until 6 o'clock in the morning when you have to get up for the bus. Okay, so you decide when that routine is. Maybe there's other things that you can do. Maybe you have to go to a carol in the library. Maybe you have to find one of the study rooms in the library and make that your routine. Just go there automatically. Make that your routine. Okay, and use your breaks wisely. Keep it short, maybe about 5 minutes, your breaks. Don't start watching a movie on your break, because that's just your mini break. Then on your longer break, like a lunch break, that's when you can do longer things. But take time off. When you do take time off from writing, make sure that time off is something that clears your brain a little bit. Walks are great. Maybe you're a runner, run, meditate, maybe do some yoga, whatever helps you clear your brain, some breathing exercises. then get back to it. But also one of my favorite ones here, number 8, is delegate. Learn how to delegate. We teach this in our leadership courses, learn how to delegate. In your case, delegating might look like you're talking to your girlfriend or boyfriend to say, hey, do you think you could take my dog to get groomed today? I have an appointment. Or, hey, do you think you could help me out by getting gas in my car? That could be delegating to someone. Asking someone, if you're a college student and you're asking someone who's not as busy as you or doesn't appear to be as busy as you to do something for you, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Get some help, right? Okay, so that's the time management techniques for students. I'm going to talk now about this method. This is called the Pomodoro method. This is one of my favorite methods. I mean, I say that about methods, but this really is one of my favorite methods, and I can prove it to you. This Pomodoro method, oh wait, I'm not on that page. This Pomodoro method, here's my proof right here. I actually have this very timer that is a Pomodoro timer that I set and use this because I'm good with this way. Now, a disclaimer, may not be good for a neurodivergent, time-triggered person, okay? So you have to find the ways to do it on a different way, but it could be good. It could be good. So let's go over that. All right, so the first thing before you ever even grab your Pomodoro, which is tomato in Italian, before you ever grab your Pomodoro, you need to find out how much time you have. And I don't mean that rhetorically. I don't need to know how much time you actually have on this earth. I need to know, you need to know how much time you have literally to complete an assignment. It's hard to believe, but a lot of people, they are so resistant to even open their assignment. Either if it's in paper or it's online, they don't even want to click it because they know they don't have time to do it. But if you click it and you find out when it's due, how involved it is, maybe it's not that difficult. Maybe it's one of those quick, knock it out, easy tasks. But people, many people don't do that. They don't check it. So I would say force yourself to look at that assignment so you know all about it, how much time you have. Make an appointment with yourself to get started. So you looked at it and you said, oh, I don't have time for this. Oh, but you know what? I have time Thursday afternoon. Make an appointment with yourself. You can put that on your calendar. Thursday afternoon. Don't bother me. I'm working on something. Do that. Don't wait till the last minute. You can squeeze in 30 minutes every night to study. I wasn't able to do that, but maybe you can do that. And maybe someone who has some issues with time would like to do it that way so that every day is distributed and every day is building off of the day prior. That works too. It didn't work for me, but I need more time. So maybe a Saturday is your whole Saturday is doing something that gets it done. As I tell my teenager, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Sometimes that means you have to give up a Saturday. Remove your distractions. Put your phone on silent, throw it in a drawer, as we talked about. Don't have it in sight. You don't need it because you have a different timer. You need to have a different timer because if you don't see, it can be your kitchen timer, but don't have your watch or your smartwatch or your phone as a timer. You want to be able to see how much time you have left. Okay. So have a timer. Just any kitchen timer is absolutely fine. You don't need to get fancy and get an actual timer like I have. I actually didn't buy that. My boss bought it because she just loved that technique that I taught her. Okay. Remove your distractions. One of them, can you listen to music while you study? Yes, you can. Spotify has your back. Spotify, you can say, hey, play a study playlist, and it will give you the nicest, sweetest playlist of all time that you can study. It's usually stringed instruments, and maybe it'll wake up some parts of your brain that you need to have awake. So do that. It's never going to be lyrics, though, I'll tell you that. Okay, so this Pomodoro method was developed by someone named Francesco Cirillo in the 1980s. And it is very involved, and you can Google it and you can get lots of like pages of writing or prioritizing your tasks. You can do a whole notebook full of this stuff, and you can find it all online. There are lots more layers than what we're going to use it, and I don't use all the layers either, but it is a great method to use. And so how you're going to do it is you are going to break your tasks into sessions. They're called Pomodoros. Pomodoro means tomato, and that's only because that's the timer that he was using when he developed it. You're going to break it into tasks and you say, okay, everything is in 25-minute increments. Again, neurodivergence may have trouble with this, and that's okay. This may not be yours, but it does work for me. Put a note on your door. I have a note on the door that says, don't bother me right now until the timer goes off. If you can do that, if you have a door, do that. Then take your break. Then you're gonna work like a mad person for 25 minutes. Do not let anything get in the way. Do not look around. Do not pass go. Just boom, work on it. 25 minutes. If you start to get a little antsy, you need to get up. Don't get up. Look at your timer. Okay, you only have 6 more minutes. You can do it for 6 more minutes. So then you work on each task that way. And when your timer goes off for a 5-minute break, set it again for 5 minutes, shake it off, walk around, do a quick running in place or something like that. Get yourself something to drink. I wouldn't really check my emails because that's not enough time, but then you repeat that for 3 to 4 sessions. So in the morning, you might do 3 or 4 sessions. You're going to take a long break then, and then you're going to do an afternoon session. And I guarantee you will get it done. It works for me. So you can find more information about that online. You can look it up. You can Google it. Here's some cons, some pros. You can get it done. Probably you're breaking up a big task, so it's more manageable. The cons are that if you're in a creative space in your mind, sometimes you don't want to stop because that creativity needs to continue. That's that. And also a neurodivergence where you don't want to be so stressed about the time that it makes you freeze up. You don't want that. All right, so coming up on my time. So we talked about time. We talked about our relationship to it, why we procrastinate, what we can do to motivate us, how to visualize, which I do love, distractions and techniques. Okay, so we only talked about 2. There are lots of techniques, but they basically follow one of these 2 ways to get through. Okay. So I have some references here. You're welcome to take a picture of it or whatever you need to do. I'm going to click out of it though, because I believe if you join, you will have access to all of these slides. Okay, so now I have this nice slide here, just to this landing slide, just to say that the Southern Miss Golden Eagle and an actual Golden Eagle are very similar. So anyway, if you want to tell us some of your favorite techniques, you can do that in the Q&A, and Ms. Fuentes will go ahead and read those out. And if you have any questions, please put that in the Q&A as well. All right.
So while we're waiting on some questions or some tips and other questions, I do have 4 that have come across to shoot your way. So one is, my family members create a huge distraction for me. I'm not able to go elsewhere much of the time, especially in the winter. They live in Michigan. What if the distraction is a person?
What was that last part? What
if the distraction is a person?
okay.
Or
What if the
family?
Yes, okay. That will require a very frank discussion. First of all, you will need to discuss that I have to get this done. I have had situations where I had people have told me they have to go into a bathroom or a closet to do their work. I know that's tough. I know when you have a lot of people that it's very difficult, but there is also, you can also put on noise canceling headphones and work that way and just pretend they aren't there. And eventually they're going to get sick of you and leave. I'm thinking of a child, and maybe it isn't a child that we're talking about, but you can put on noise canceling headphones and that puts you in your own little world. Honestly, it helps. It really does help. But that might be that you don't have a space to create to call your own, but you can use a restroom or a closet if possible. I have seen people put and we've done this before in my house, but put a big, make a little tent, I guess, out of a comforter and go under there and work. And if you can do that, that could be creating a space for you. But I understand what you're saying. But yes, you have to do whatever you can because you're important too, and you need that headspace.
Couple of responses just to that question. Somebody whose family is also a distraction, so sometimes they leave the house and go to the car, McDonald's, or the library. AirPods with noise cancellation have also helped with focus. This kind of goes into one of the questions. Somebody says, one thing that helps me focus is 532 hertz music rather than instrumental. So then somebody asked, would listening to relaxing music while studying also be a form of multitasking?
Okay, I did cover that in the lecture that there is such a thing as study music, and study music is usually string instruments, and it doesn't usually involve lyrics, but there is a special playlist for studying, and that is not considered multitasking.
One question, are you ultimately saying that our senses can be a distraction?
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty deep, but yes, your own senses can be a distraction. What if you're hungry? I mean, I read somewhere that recently that there were 21 senses. Now I used 5, but there are actually 21, including hunger and thirst. Can that be a distraction? Sure, absolutely. That's a distraction. Yes. So we have to try to get rid of as many distractions as possible. It is very difficult to write papers when you're hungry. So yeah, you have to take care of that. Yeah.
Does eating snacks while doing assignments count as multitasking?
No, it
Kinda
does
good.
not. So what I mentioned was that when you're using the same cognitive parts of your brain, that's multitasking. But when you're eating, which is pretty much a no-brainer, as they say, and working on a paper, it's fine. It's not multitasking. It doesn't take you longer. I mean, it does take you longer in that you're not, able to type, but it doesn't take you longer in your thought processing.
Suggestion from someone, they've started homeschooling their daughter, and so they share a room, so they've gotten a divider off of Amazon that helps keep both of them less distracted while they are doing work.
That's a great idea. Didn't think of ordering a divider. That helps too. I realized after COVID, so many things happen in our home that we didn't think would. Now I do, if I'm home, I'm very distracted and I can't get much done, but I do go to the library. If for some reason I'm not coming to my office that day, I do go to the library and I do put on noise canceling headphones, and I have great success in working. But if you're homebound with a child, say, that is a great solution. I absolutely love that one.
How much is too much time off from the assignment or work at hand before they get distracted? This is regarding number 7 when you mentioned taking time off.
Yes. So too much time off would probably be, an appropriate amount of time off would be before you start to stray. Okay, so you want to take a run, that's fine. You want to do half an hour of yoga, that's fine. Usually it's about 30 to 45 minutes for your lunch break or your big break, 5 minutes for your small breaks, and about 45 minutes at the most for your other breaks, because otherwise now you're just doing too much. Now, if you have errands you have to run, some people have to pick up their kids from school or they have to do something, then of course you have to do what you have to do. That's a time constraint, but I would say about 45 minutes for your big break. Not too much.
So a couple of questions, one stating that they actually stay up later till 2 and 3 to get work done. Whereas somebody did ask, for single parents with young kids, say bedtime is 8 p.m. Would it be better to stay up late to study and do assignments, or wake up early in the morning before their child wakes up to complete tasks and assignments?
That's such a good question. Okay, so it depends on you. For me, it's better for me to go to bed at 8 and get up early. That's better for me. My brain is fried. I've been using it all day. I really don't have anything left in the tank to, and I really don't want to drink a pot of coffee to stay up or, Dr. Pepper or whatever it is. So for me, it's better to get up early. But I totally understand there are night owls in the world who do better at night. And that's on you. But honestly, if that is the quiet time you have, so everybody goes to bed at 8 and you have an 8 until 3, great. That's awesome. That's a lot of time. But if you have to get up early, just try it. Just try it and see, because for me, I need to be refreshed. I need to have slept.
Me too. Any tips for people who procrastinate because of a need of perfection?
Oh, yes. If you need okay, so let's go back to that very first thing that those first sayings that I put. This paper won't write itself. Even though you need perfection, you have this need for perfection. You put words on paper, you get something down. It won't be perfect. It's not going to be your finished product. It is not going to be the thing you turn in, but getting that first thesis, that first statement of what your project or what your paper is about, that helps so much. Just, that old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step. Then that's, and I butchered that. Okay, so that's not exact. You do need to put one thing, make that your task. Your task is to get one thesis statement down on the screen. That's it. It's not going to be the right one. It's not going to be the one you turn in, but that's what you have to do. Break it into even smaller tasks.
Just like I'm responding to one here. Let's see. What if the distraction is a form of grief? What about loss of a relationship?
Okay, emotional distractions. That is a really good question. When you're not at your best emotionally, you do not write at your best. You do not produce at your best. So the best thing to do is deal with that. I mean, grief, we all know when you delay your grief, it has a lot of repercussions. But it looks so different. It's so hard to say for you personally, but if you know that you are suffering from that and it's taking up your brain space, you've got to get some help. You've got to call a friend. You've got to unload. And I don't want to say I don't want to say that you can take that lightly. You cannot. If we're talking about grief, that is something you most definitely need to get professional help for, because nobody can help you with that except you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. I would say deal with that as best you can to get through. I am on a committee that people get denied their admissions, and we look at to see what kind of possible situations there were. And a lot of times it's people dealing with grief and they didn't realize that they still had grief and they weren't able to finish. So I know that is a difficult one to master, but you have to get help. You have to get professional help for that. So it will be very difficult to complete your assignments.
Okay. So we have a question. What are good resources for those that are neurodivergent? And then I did notice somebody put in a comment that I had seen in the last session of this about body doubling helps them at times. They look at people who are studying on YouTube to help them focus and let it play in the background. Do you have any additional tips?
So there are apps, and they are, on your phone. But if you have a neurodivergence, and there are many different forms of it, of course, but sometimes it shows in the way that you are less organized. So like I said earlier in the lecture, getting someone to prioritize the task for you is often helpful. And then there are if you usually need more time than other people, to get things done. And it's not because you can't, it's not because you can't manage your time. It's because you do it differently. And that's all it is. You do it differently. So there are some apps, there's like To-Do List or Trello or different ones. Noise canceling headphones again is helpful for that. And also, knowing what your triggers are. If your trigger is stress from time, then start way early and start working on it. And then so that time isn't really, and no one is bugging you about time. But if you need to tell someone that you're working on something that is due on a certain date, that person can help give you some nudges and maybe some tips on that particular paper or lesson. But yeah, using headphones to make it stop, and using someone or an app to help you organize. That's what I would say would be helpful.
So here's an interesting one. I was thinking about pets as a distractor. I feel like it can be hard to focus at times because they view your idleness as availability.
That is such a good one that I hadn't thought about, because many people, especially in this world where we Zoom all the time, we see people's cats sitting on the keyboard. We see, and a dog, to me, just is just staring at your eyes, begging you to take us out. That is very, that is distracting. That is distracting to me. So I would make sure before you even start, take that dog out, and take your dog out, run it around in a circle, a whole bunch, and then hopefully that dog will go to sleep. But your cats will not. Sometimes you have to put them in another room. I mean, sometimes it's just that. You can't be distracted. I mean, your animals don't have the same goals that you have. And time is relative to their existence. So a cat really does not care if you get your job, get it done, but it can be done. I mean, I've had animals, I've been able to do it, but sometimes you have to do that.
We'll do just a couple of more here, and then we are going to have to wrap up to stay under our hour. Any advice on to-do lists and staying committed to them?
When you do a to-do list, it is powerful for you to be able to cross it off. So I would list everything on there, or if you get from your college, if you get a list of classes that you need to take, make sure you have that pasted up on your board. Make sure your list of things you need to do in that class are listed somewhere. Use the calendar, and as you do it, cross it out. That feels so good, and you will be able to stay committed to it, but just by seeing it and saying, well, how can I get that off my list? How can I get that off my list? Yeah.
So last one here before I kind of wrap us up, please repeat the quote that you made about motivation and procrastination. It was towards the beginning. Motivation.
The beginning. I did two of them. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late was William Shakespeare. I don't know if it was that one, or never leave till tomorrow that which you can do today, which is Benjamin Franklin. I also did another quote about motivation here, and it was Tim Urban's TED Talk, the guardian angel of the procrastinator is panic. So I'm not sure which one you were thinking about.
I'm not sure which one they were either. So, so just kind of wrap this up. We want to thank Dr. Funk for sharing your wisdom with us. Eligible Phi Theta Kappa students, we hope you enjoyed the session and will accept your membership invitation to Phi Theta Kappa. If you have Phi Theta Kappa specific questions, please feel free to email me, as I have placed my email in the chat. So thank you again, everyone. We were glad to share all of this information with you. So have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.